Hello everyone and welcome back to my weekly review of Daleks. We've reached the halfway point of episode 3, Planet of the Mechanoids. Anyone else notice they misspelled Mechanoids? In the classic series, Mechanoids was spelled with an O in the middle, not an A. Here's the main issue with this episode and this serial so far. Lack of stakes. I mentioned in my review of last episode, which you can watch with the card above if you haven't already, that if this serial was going to get good, it needed to start getting a little more intense, because so far each episode has been pretty tame. And this episode doesn't make things any bigger. The end result of this episode leaves the Daleks in the same vulnerable place they were at the end of the last episode and the beginning of this one. Just that now they have a few less Daleks. And this wouldn't be much of an issue if the Daleks were actually entertaining in this episode. In this episode, they don't really act any different from how they normally do in the show. There's very little added depth or personality. In fact, pretty much every other species we've come across in this show so far has been much more entertaining than the Daleks. When this show was announced, it promised that the Daleks would be the main characters and that you'd actually be rooting for them to win, which was a very interesting idea to explore, but so far they haven't really accomplished this. So in this review I'll be talking about why they didn't. Plus, the fan favorite Mechonoids are back, so that's something to talk about, right? And I will talk about that right after I plug my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you enjoy my videos and want to support me directly, especially since I'm currently not monetized, for just the price of a cup of coffee, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/ColeHershowski to donate some money. Don't want to remember that URL? No problem. There's also a link in the description and one on the banner of my channel page. If you do want that URL again, because you're the very specific type of lazy where you'd rather learn the URL and type it in rather than scroll down into the description and find the link, and trust me, I feel you, the site is buymeacoffee.com/ColeHershowsky. While I have you, I'll also say that I'm just about at 100 subs, which means I'll be making a 100 sub special. If you want to contribute in deciding what I do for that, there's a card above where you can go to a video and help me decide. So the episode. The Daleks arrive on Mechanus, where we see that the Mechanoids have really evolved since the events of the chase. Before, they were command-driven robots confined to a single city on a jungle planet, determined to keep the place ready for human colonists. Now they've evolved into being a species of their own, with the capacity to understand beauty and have their own sprawling city, no longer defined by their original purpose. Of course, we don't focus on that too much. The Daleks arrive and offer peace, asking for the Mechanoids' help, but they see right through that and realize that the Daleks are just super desperate, which gives them the negotiational upper hand. So the Emperor goes with the Mechanoid Queen and they talk about the situation. This episode really drags on. It feels like the script was only like 10 pages long, so they slowed everything down to stretch it out to 13 minutes. Which on its own is already a pretty conservative amount for this series. On top of that, it feels like even the script is too long. This honestly could have been whittled down to 3 or 4 minutes and would have been better. All that happens until the very end really is that the Dalek Emperor is talking to the Mechanoid Queen, the Dalek Strategist talks to a Mechanoid Scientist, and the last few remaining Scout Daleks get impatient and get in a fight with some Mechanoids and lose. This means that the Emperor and the Strategist are all that remain of the Dalek race. At the end, Mechanus' energy is being drained and it's revealed that the whole reason the Daleks came to Mechanus was to lead the entity here and effectively weaponize it against their enemy. Maybe the Daleks don't care if the entity wipes them out if they can use it to wipe everyone else out and claim a spot as the most powerful creatures in the universe. Or this universe at least. I guess this is a good twist, but honestly I think the episode and the whole series would have benefited if the Daleks actually were there for the Mechanoids' help. It would have given them much more depth. Instead of just being blind killing machines like we've always known them to be, they could have been much more relatable and interesting if they had actually decided to temporarily forego their mission to destroy all other life in the universe and get help from their enemies if it meant the Daleks would survive as a race. If they could just be seen similarly to the Doctor in Series 1, the last of a race that's lost everything, then maybe I'd root for them. But instead, it seems that they decided that just making them the underdogs by killing off almost all of them would do that. Well, it doesn't. I went into this series hoping it'd be a great Doctor Who story worthy of being notable as the first CG animated web-exclusive spinoff. But so far, it just seems like a Big Finish story that happens to be animated. And that's not a knock against Big Finish. There are great Big Finish stories out there, but if this was a Big Finish story, it'd just be okay. Maybe even subpar. Unless in future episodes they can really justify the ending to this episode and make me connect to more with the Daleks, I think subpar is all this show will be. So that's all I have to say about this episode. Subscribe to hear my thoughts on future episodes and for daily videos on the franchises you love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.